Welcome ladies and gentlemen to a Rimworld Odyssey adventure. I am very excited to get started here. Now, if you've watched the DLC or you've played it for yourself already, you'll know that we've already run through the basic gravship starting scenario, although I've obviously taken some liberties to make the story a little bit more interesting. And to start giving a bit of an explanation of our story, we have this Captain Ulysses, who has crashed his gravship after a mechanoid attack in space. Thankfully, he's been saved by a mysterious stranger who now sleeps beside him in the crashed ship. Ulysses and his dead companion Yuri crashed in the ancient war-ravaged city of Calypso, which lays in ruins. There are many abandoned and wrecked buildings in this part of what was once a great city, and these are all just waiting to be explored, if we choose to, that is. Now, taking a look at the world map, we are situated in a Scarlands biome, which is one of the new ones in the DLC. It already looks like there's a couple of new landmark areas as well, which is also part of the DLC, I believe, that are not too far from us. I am pretty keen to check those out as well. Jumping up a little bit, we've got a pretty standard planet with the Empire and civil Outlanders living in harmony, while there are several pirate factions who look to cause us harm. But perhaps most importantly, we have the Monkey Ocean. Not planned, this is just the sea we're using. It's called Ulysses. If you want to use it yourself and play along, I am using faction control to space the factions out a little as well. Once again, going higher, we can see since this is the new Odyssey DLC, we can venture into space. There are a few asteroids orbiting the planet, which at some point we'll be journeying to for mining, exploration, maybe even asteroid base, who knows. The world is our oyster here. I am very excited to begin the journey. As I've already said enough, let's just get into it. But first and foremost, we should introduce our protagonists for the series. Starting off, we have Ulysses Homeric, who is a 45-year-old faction leader with a great melee skill and room to grow in some other areas. He's also psychically sensitive and a body purist. And in case you haven't noticed, he's based off the Odyssey DLC guy from the art. We also have Gordon Herman, who is an ace fighter pilot. We are not really sure what he's doing out here in these wastelands. I'm sure we'll find out with time though. He has some good skills in intellectual and animals, and he's a decent constructor. These two don't previously know each other, but Gordon has heard of the great Ulysses, who led a force into the unknown to combat the mechanoid threat on other planets with the help of some of the Galactic Empire and factions in the galaxy. He had left the planet around 10 years ago and has now returned home to find that there is a major mechanoid threat on his own planet. Although before we face the potential impending mechanoid doom, we need to put our friend Yuri to rest. Herman would go about digging a small grave for him not far from the shuttle's crash site, waiting patiently as Ulysses carried his companion to his final resting place. They held a short funeral for Yuri. During the eulogy, Ulysses would recount some of their adventures and battles that the two had shared prior to their crash. They had been very close friends. Yuri was one of his most loyal crewmates. He would also tell Herman about Perry, his other crewmate, who was killed on some sort of mech relay that they stumbled across while returning to the planet. It appears Ulysses' words were quite touching, and the time that he had spent contemplating with Herman at his side had produced a heartwarming funeral. It's unfortunate that we have to turn away from this lovely occasion so quickly, but we do need to protect ourselves. And we need to prepare to get out of this wasteland. So Herman would decide to get busy beginning to repair the hull of the craft where it had been destroyed during the impact. He would also fix the thrusters which had been broken down. That evening we had a tribal visitor. I'm not sure either of our heroes noticed him, and I'm not sure he had any idea what he was looking at either. Honestly, I'm just glad he didn't try to stick that very sharp spike that he has through one of our colonists. As Ulysses rested, he would begin to consider their next move. We'd have to wait around 5 days before the ship's engines are ready to take back off, so we're stuck here for a little. But at least he's stuck with a friend. It seems the funeral and the time that they've spent together has brought our two protagonists into something of a friendship. And because of this friendship, Herman decided that he wanted to get a bit of a present for Ulysses. And no, it wasn't a dead raccoon, although killing this slippery little fellow is the first step of his plan. This guy was really hard to catch. I'm not sure if the new DLC or 1.6 has updated some of the mechanics. I feel like they never used to flee quite this much. I could be wrong there. Either way, when we finally hunted him down and shot him, we would butcher him for his tasty raccoon meat. It seems one of these Scaria-infested raccoons didn't really like that we had killed his friend too much and decided to attack Herman. Thankfully, a couple blasts put him to sleep as well. And finally, we went on to tame a crow. Yes, that's right, that's Herman's planned present for Ulysses, a pet crow for them. A little buddy who can keep them company on the grav ship will do them both a world of good, I think. Since we're able to train her to attack people, she will become Herman's personal pet, potentially, as Ulysses doesn't have much animal handling skill. We're also going to need a name for her, so if you guys have one, please leave them in the comments down below. With the addition of this third member, Ulysses decided it was time to name our faction, choosing to call ourselves a very inventive name, Ulysses Odyssey Crew. Yes, very catchy. If you've got a better name, please feel free to leave that as well. And now that we're a few days in, Ulysses has almost healed, but Herman is still a bit cooped up, staying in the camp, so he decided to do a little bit of exploring. He would search through several of the nearby structures, not really finding much initially, until he came up to one of these northern buildings. He would set off one of these ancient hunter traps, which shredded his neck and left leg. Thankfully, he was able to patch himself up there on the spot, but one of these injuries would go on to scar, which is a bit of a pain. Herman would return to the ship to rest for a while, but while doing so, our comms panel would come through with a notification that an ancient stockpile is located nearby. And perhaps more importantly, it may be holding a grav core, which is an essential component in expanding our grav ship. This stockpile is located a few days' journey to the west of us, so we'll need to begin devising a plan to get there. But before we face that challenge, it looks like a pirate has come to take our ship from us. This guy wasn't too intelligent. For some reason, he decided to enter this building here. He could have easily snuck up on us, but after the gunfire we heard from within this structure, we decided to investigate. By the time Ulysses had made it up here, our friend Quieter was laying in a pool of his own blood as he was attempting to escape. Ulysses would poke his head into the building to see who let off these gunshots, spotting an ancient turret in the corner. Waiting for it to attempt to shoot him, he would hide around the corner and make his move quickly as it began reloading, smashing the machine with his mighty Zeus hammer, stunning its electronics before destroying it. And now we would have to decide what to do with our friend here. Of course, we're going to be taking him prisoner, in the very room that he almost died in. I'm sure this was quite traumatizing for him to come back in here. Now, Quieter's stats are nothing to write home about, and although he's a decent melee fighter, we don't want to have to feed an extra mouth when they can't really do much else. Plus, it would take forever to recruit him, so we decided it was better just to release him. If nothing else, he'll return home to his pirate buddies, and they will think twice before trying to attack us again. Now that the immediate threat was dealt with, we can focus again on the looming challenge of getting over to the Gravcore location. And since we'll be living out of our ship while we explore, we decided it would be a good idea to build an extension on the front of the vessel. We would include a couple additional chem fuel tanks, a bed for each of our heroes, a research bench so we could begin looking into some new technologies, as well as a couple of these armor racks, which are one of my favorite additions in Odyssey or 1.6. I'm not sure which one of them adds them. I love using the armor rack mod, but those can be a little buggy, so having these is really great. During the construction, Ulysses decided to christen the grave ship with a name, deciding on Yuri's legacy, in honor of his fallen companion. And speaking of Yuri, we're not ready to join him in the afterlife just yet, so we'll need to get started on planting some of these rice crops to keep our food up. We're beginning to run pretty low on our survival meals. While we wait for our rice to grow, we would go about exploring more of the city ruins. There was a lot more here than I'd first expected, seeing that most of the city is actually hidden under the mountain here. The ancient society that had once lived here had made whole walkways, bedrooms, storage rooms, and many other different kinds of rooms in this city. As we continued searching, we were filled with a great sorrow. Many people probably lost their lives here. This place is buried between rocks and lost by time. We suspect most of the cave-ins happened during the war here, perhaps from bombing runs. We're not sure what made the city of Calypso this way. Perhaps it was the mechanoids that now seek to destroy us as well. These thoughts weighed pretty heavy on Ulysses and Herman. But with a good day of adventure in the books, we decided it was time for some recreation, so we would build a horseshoe pole just outside of the grav ship. But it would seem we're once again not alone here. A fluffy pink pirate has come to hunt us down. The absolute disrespect from this guy. He attempted to shoot at our crow. We cannot allow this. Ulysses would pop out from the ship, shooting at him as he didn't yet know that we were here. Thankfully, our crow's masterful dodging of his bullets earlier and Ulysses' quick response had allowed him to get inside the ship safe with us. Our attacker would advance, going for the ship's engines. Ulysses heard him moving outside and would burst out, Zeus hammer in hand. He would begin bashing him, and after a couple of quick strikes, he was out. We would help out this sorry excuse for a raider by tending to him, but it seems he was only playing dead. He would get back up trying to attack Ulysses, only to be put back in his place. We would have taken care of you. You could have been our Pink Panther, but you took our kindness as weakness, and look where it got you, you fool. Herman would soon return from the last of his exploration, building a table and a chair quickly before bed so we can enjoy our meals in comfort and safety now that the raid is gone. With a new day, we would continue our exploration of the city ruins, this time finding some decent loot. A bit of steel and components would certainly come in handy. We would also find a lot of dead ends. But after spending most of the day searching, Herman would finally stumble upon a room that was very different to the others. This one had a glowing crate inside, which Herman would inspect before opening. He would find some gravlite panels inside, another thing that we would certainly make use of. Not long later, he would stumble upon another similar room. This time, a door blocked where we expected the crate to be. It looks like this door has some sort of security system in place, so Herman began hacking it. It took him a little while since his intellectual is only at 4, but he would eventually get it. Upon entering the room, we would find nothing. What a waste of time. Oh well, we can't win them all. The next day was our last of exploring, and the only part left was this room in the north. We had no idea that we would find a Scorcher in here. Thankfully, Ulysses managed to dodge his initial attack, moving in quickly to begin using his Zeus hammer. He was able to stun the mech as Herman, who was still on fire, let off a few shots, killing it quickly. We would also rush to deconstruct one of the walls so we don't cook to death in this room, as it's quickly heating up. Now, thanks to this little fella here, I had to micromanage for the next couple of days to make sure our two heroes healed while also not starving to death. So I have to apologize for not getting much of that recorded. The one painful thing about making these videos is that in tense situations like this, I have to choose to play the game and make sure that my colonists survive and record footage, which can be a bit annoying. Either way, once everybody was okay, we heard a whooshing sound in the sky above us, followed by the faint screams of a man in the distance. It seems someone has crash landed a transport pod here in the middle of nowhere. As crash landers ourselves, we decided to take pity on this poor soul. After all, without us here, he would starve and die. But now with 3 mouths to feed, potentially, assuming he decides to stay, we may still all starve and die, but at least we'll have an extra friend to do it with. That new friend is Leroy Corellius, or Jenkins, as he's known more commonly. He was a rebel student turned firebomber who is trigger happy and tough. He's also got some decent passions in shooting, cooking, but most importantly, mining, which we're really going to need as Herman and Ulysses both have 0 in this skill. Hopefully he will decide to join us, but for now, we're going to let our new companion sleep well. You may be asking yourself at this point in the video why we don't just grav jump out of here since it's so hard to survive in a biome like this. Now, there is a particular reason that we've stayed so long. No, it's not to enjoy the scenery. It is to construct a third thruster, which will put us just within range of the ancient stockpile, meaning we can loot the place right after landing there. And it seems this construction has finished up just in time, as we've received a transmission that the mech hive, which looms above us in the stars, has nearly pinpointed our location. We're gonna need to get out of Dodge soon. And after packing our ship with everything that we'd collected here, we would do exactly that. We still only have a 20% chance of a successful ship takeoff and landing, but that will have to do. Fire up the ship, Captain. We're out of here. It looks like we made it safe and sound. We can sleep easy tonight knowing the mechanoids are a few steps behind us now. Unfortunately, our engines have overheated and it will take around 9 days before we can take back off. But thankfully there are several of these underground bunkers to check out in the meantime. We can detect the energy signal coming from somewhere underground here. We're going to have to hack these entrances to find the grav core that's being kept here. But first, we need to make sure we're well fed, so it's off to a nearby patch of soil for Ulysses to start off our rice fields. Things were actually pretty peaceful the first day or two that we were here. We cooked meals on the campfire and then built a fueled stove inside so we don't have to sit outside in the cold every night when we want to make our food. But then a couple of days in, Jenkins decided he wanted to leave. Well, we can't have that. Which is why we are deconstructing these ruins in the desert to gather granite blocks for a tiny prison in the side of the mountain. Sorry Jenkins, this is for your own good. You'll die out here without us, you no-good alcoholic. Oh, and Ulysses will be taking that beer while we're at it. Not long later, we would get a request from a 45-year-old evangelist, Hamilton, who is calling from nearby. It seems some monitor lizards are after him and he needs sanctuary. Come right on in, Hammond. Grab a charge pistol too, we'll take care of these filthy monitor lizards together. We would meet these beasts in the desert, blasting at them. We could smell their scary infection as they would try to claw at us. But luckily we were able to take them out one by one before finishing them out for good. This was well worth the trouble we'd gone to as well. Richard Hamilton was a great pawn to pick up. He's a psychopath, which will mean he's not affected by death like the others, which has its own niche use case. He also has incredible artistic and some good social and mining skills. We would instantly put his mining skills to use, getting him to mine some steel not too far from the ship's landing site, and we would also have him help mine a silver asteroid that fell a day or two after he joined. While Hamilton helps us with mining, our protagonists will check out and try to hack the ancient stockpile's door. This would take way longer than I had expected, as for one, this is a very long hacking process. Secondly, you also get locked out of the terminal sometimes, meaning you have to wait about half a day in some cases before you can return. We'll keep working on it in the background though. Out here in the desert there are a lot of tribespeople as well. Sometimes they go a little crazy from the heat. Like this guy who wandered off in the wrong direction initially. He would eventually come back down though and was popped by Herman almost instantly. Poor guy. We'll be taking these pretty green rocks from you though. Thanks. Yes, the desert is lovely. It's certainly been better to us than the city ever was, and the people out here are much friendlier, other than some of those tribespeople. We had a combat trader from the Outland faction come by to sell us some weapons. We would purchase the assault rifle off them, which I have a feeling will come in handy at some point in the not too distant future. Something else I think will help in the future is the upgrades that we're doing to the grav ship. I've decided to put some extra space towards the back for a couple of new rooms and install an extra thruster. We were interrupted by another travelling trader, and normally I wouldn't bother showing these if we don't buy anything, but our friend Cervexa from the first night we were in Calypso was with them. I, as the narrator, thought it was nice that he's been following them around. What isn't nice though is that the mechanoids have once again almost completed their scanning process, meaning we will need to get into the stockpile quickly, and we best hope the grav core is in there as we don't have time to check the other two. And what do you know? We're in. But that is where we will be leaving it for today. I want to thank you all for watching the first episode of the Rimworld Odyssey series. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope you've enjoyed the episode and will stick around for many more to come. And if you're not new, I am still planning on finishing the medieval series that we're doing. I'm just working on it in the background. I will see you on the next video though. Goodbye.